of May, Honorable, people are going to begin the process of inspecting the voters' roll. What should people expect? What are they going to look for?
Well, first and foremost, the MDC and President Chamisa would like to thank the people of Zimbabwe and congratulate them for coming up in their millions and heeded the MDC call to get registered for the 2018 harmonized election. Further, I would like to urge all Zimbabweans to go and inspect the provisional voters' roll, which is going to take place from the 19th of May 2018. People should carry their national registration cards, valid passport, together with their registration slips. They should go to the designated inspection centers, which are in the newspapers, and we also anticipate ZEC to put that on the radio and television. They should look up for their names and check whether their names have been correctly spelled, check on the digits of their national IDs, and also double check on their addresses to ensure that they are posted on the correct polling stations for the purposes of the election. So it's an audit that is going to take place when people do their own self-audit, because if Zimbabweans don't do that during the given time, that cannot be corrected on the polling day. So if your name is misspelled and you don't correct that, it means that you might not be able to cast a vote. So we urge all Zimbabweans to go and do the inspection of the provisional voters' roll.
Alright. So besides self-inspection that people will do of this process, is there going to be another audit that is done by, say, an independent auditor?
Yes, we are in the process of engaging ZEC. We tried to do that through the legislative process. We failed to do that in Parliament, so it's a deadlock. Further, President Advocate Nelson Chamisa wrote a letter to President Mnangagwa requesting for a meeting where he wants to deal with the issue of the ballot printing, which should be transparent and accessible. And secondly, to deal with the issue of the audit of the voters' roll. It is important that the voters' roll should be audited by an independent private firm, so that we have a document of reference. Imagine you have your voters' roll, and just as an example, G40 hacks that document and removes hundreds of thousands of names from the voters' roll. We will have no Bible to resort to, because if we don't have an independent audited voters' roll, we have nothing else to revert to. For example, in the event that the voters' roll is hacked by whoever decides to do that. So it's important that the voters' roll is audited by an independent firm, and these are trust issues.
Yeah.
We have to be transparent. If Zimbabwe is open for business, it should also be open for political business. It should also be open for a transparent, free, fair, and accessible election where we all have access and everything is done above board.
You talked about the system getting hacked, or that it may get hacked. How safe are the savers?
This is one of the fundamental issues that we put on the table. That as much as we would want to inspect the voters' roll, and as much as we are encouraging our people to inspect the voters' roll, we as stakeholders, we should be sure about certain fundamentals. We need to know where the servers are. We need to know where the information is being stored, in whose custody are the servers. We have to know all that information.
But why is it so murky? Why is that information murky? Why is it not made available to all players?
This is what we are fighting for. it has to be transparent, and it has to be transparent like yesterday. Days are running out, and things just have to be corrected. And we hope that President Mnangagwa will hit the clarion call that we are making as an MDC, that we need an urgent meeting to iron out those issues. Those issues cannot be dealt with by outsiders. Those issues cannot be dealt out by international observers. Those issues have to be dealt with by having President Mnangagwa having a one-on-one with President Advocate Nelson Chamisa.
There are people who are registering now, way after the BVR process ended, but they are still registering now. Would they find their names in the voters' roll?
Precisely, they should find their names on the voters' roll. And not only those people, including those that will register 12 days after the nomination court. That is when the voters' roll is going to close.
Okay.
So we expect everybody to be on the roll as long as they presented themselves for registration.
Okay, let's talk about the ballot paper. You mentioned that that is also an issue you are raising with ZEC and you are raising with the government of President Emerson Mnangagwa. Why is there so much contention around the ballot paper?
The ballot paper is the epitome of election rigging in Zimbabwe. It's a combination of the ballot paper and the voters' roll. The voters' roll through manipulation and disenfranchisement, systematic disenfranchisement of certain targeted individuals, in particular in MDC strongholds, targeted by way of level of support and targeted by way of age group. And then secondly, the ballot has to be printed by an independent and credible firm, which should be identified through a public tender process, not by just picking an individual of their choice. It should be done transparently, and we need to know the company that is going to print the ballot. If it is printed in South Africa, all stakeholders should have access to that company. We should do quality control in respect of the photograph of our presidential candidate and all our candidates. Their names, the issue of their placement on the pages, for example, we need to make sure that President Chamisa is on page 1 because it's going to be alphabetical. And we need to make sure that President Mnangagwa, because now we have about 140 political parties, he stays in his page 17. We want to ensure that he does not change his names to say, in respect of this plebiscite, my name is Mnangagwa Emerson Dambuzo, so that he comes on page 1 together with Chamisa. He has his own inherited family government names, and he should maintain those. Secondly, we also want to satisfy ourselves in respect of the number of ballots that would have printed for the purpose of the election. And not only to satisfy ourselves in respect of the number of ballots, further we need to satisfy ourselves in respect of the serial numbers of those ballots that they have printed from 0001 to 7,144,222. We should know all that. And once that is done, we are going together with other stakeholders to escort the ballots to wherever the central storage would be. And then we are going to put our agents in place who are going to guard those ballots 24 hours a day. And then thereafter, when the ballot is being distributed, we would want to know how many ballots are going to which province, and also to record the serial numbers. Further, we are going to escort those ballots through our agents up to the provincial command center. From the provincial command center, we would like to record the serial number of those ballots as they are distributed to the district command centers, and our men and women are going to escort those ballots. And then from the provincial distribution center, we are going to escort and register and record the serial numbers of the ballots as they are distributed to the ward command centers. And lastly, we are going to record the serial numbers of the ballots as they are distributed to the polling station. And our men and women are going to escort the ballots up to the polling station. They are going to sleep over and make sure that the morning after they check on the serial numbers, and then the voting will begin.
We've heard about ballot papers that are pre-voted already.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think having access to the printing places of these ballot papers will prevent such scenarios, or it's an electronic something that happens where you are told that the eggs will shift somehow in favor of a particular candidate?
It's called chromatography. It's technological and it exists. And we have no doubt and no reason why we shouldn't believe that our political opponents can use that to rig the forthcoming election. And we are of a very serious view that Nikuv did that in the last plebiscite. Mm-hmm. This is why we want the ballot to be printed by a company that is credible, a company that prints money, like in South Africa there, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Because ballot printing and money printing is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So you need a company that has something to protect. Fidelity has nothing to protect, because they will never get a tender from no one to print anything. Okay. Because these are the printers of the bond notes, mm-hmm. these are the printers of your bearer checks, and these are the printers of all these ballots that have been stealing the people's victory in all these last elections. So it's a trust issue. It's a trust issue, and the moment you don't have trust, then everything else goes into smoke. So we don't want Fidelity printers to print the ballot. We want it to be printed outside the country by a credible company that has its name to protect, which will not be manipulated over a 3 or 4 million tender.
Given the state of stubbornness that Zimbabweans have witnessed around the election issues, do you think ZANU-PF is going to allow for all these demands that you're putting through? And in the event that they don't, and election dates that are drawing closer, what is going to happen?
Well, we marched together with ZANU-PF during the era of President Mugabe. And we marched, and in that march, President Mnangagwa was not there, though he is the major beneficiary of that outcome. And he has to respect the people who marched to establish the status quo. And he made an undertaking that there is going to be a new era, a new dispensation, and Zimbabwe is open for business. Business is not only confined to money and diamonds. It covers all those issues like political business and elections. Zimbabwe should be open to a transparent electoral process. Zimbabwe should be open to a process that is available to all of us in respect of the ballot printing. So we are not going to budge. Zimbabweans know what they want. They want a credible election. Zimbabweans, wherever we have traveled throughout, they want the ballot paper to be printed in a transparent way. And if that is not done, the Zimbabwe are people who are very constitutional. They will exercise their constitutional right to march until they get all they want before the election comes. So it's going to be an issue of the state versus the street. And we don't want things to get that far. We don't want the world to see us as people who cannot sit down and talk. We don't want SADC to come here and experience that. We don't want the AU to come and experience that. We don't want the Europeans to come here and experience that. We are all Africans here. We are brothers and sisters. We should sit down around a table and deal with those small matters like the printing of the ballot, the audit of the voters' roll, and the distribution of the ballot itself, a free, fair and credible election, the announcement of a new president in Zimbabwe, and the inauguration.
The MDC has said without these reforms, you're not going to go for the election.
The MDC did not say without those reforms they are not going for election. The MDC has categorically stated that there shall be no elections in Zimbabwe if those reforms are not met. there shall be no elections.
Thank you.